NIO is spending millions and millions of dollars on Onvo stores and will be spending millions and millions of dollars on Firefly swap stations because the Firefly car is too small to use existing NIO swap stations, so they will need their own individual swap stations, which require further investment and capex. With the price war going on and margins of most automobile companies taking a significant hit, many brands have chosen to play it safe. For example, Xpeng, they have actually canceled their sub-brand. They were supposed to launch the Mona MO3 under a different brand. However, to save cash, they've decided to launch the car under the Xpeng name and instead of launching a sub-brand. Meanwhile, NIO is going ahead and launching two new brands, the Onvo brand and of course the Firefly brand for the mass market. Xpeng absolutely did the wrong move of not launching a sub-brand, and in my opinion, NIO should have also just launched the Onvo L60 as a NIO EC4 or a ES4. First of all, why does Xpeng need a sub-brand? Well, it's mostly because of the Xpeng name here in China. Xiaopeng translates into little boy, alright? Sort of translates, sounds like little boy. A lot of people don't buy the car because of just the name, okay? The name isn't very bombastic. It doesn't invoke prestige. It's not very desirable. And as a result, Xpeng really needs to launch the car under a new name. In other words, the whole reason that Xpeng's sales are down is because of its name here in China. Now, NIO's situation is the complete opposite. NIO's name is absolutely top of the line, and in Chinese, it directly translates to blue sky coming, and the name 未来 also sounds like future. So they got the name absolutely bang correct, and it's a very desirable product, very desirable company, very desirable name. People want a NIO, period. However, some people have shared mixed opinions about the name Onvo. On Voyage sounds alright in English, but in Chinese, 乐道, Happy Road, Happy Valley sounds like an amusement park. And even lots of sales reps, NIO sales reps, said that the name Onvo, 乐道, here in China does not sound as good as its code name, which was Alps. In other words, this car would sell much better, alright, the Onvo L60, if it was under the NIO brand, renamed as a NIO ES4 or EC4. Building a sub-brand also means expanding on sales infrastructure network. You have to build new stores. Straight off the bat in this quarter, alright, NIO is building 100 Onvo stores all around China to start off with. These stores require a lot of money. They require managers, they require staff, so you got to train and hire new people. This is more capex, and you need new marketing department, etc. But there's a silver lining. Onvo, of course, shares swap stations with NIO and also shares service centers with NIO. So in that aspect, the capex will actually be lower. But for Firefly, because it has to have its own swap stations, that means they have to build new swap stations for Firefly. And straight off the bat, if there aren't enough of these Firefly swap stations out there, the car doesn't have the advantages that a NIO or Onvo has at launch, which are all these swap stations. If you only have a few, then this battery swap isn't really an advantage for the Firefly car, and some people may not be convinced to buy that car. So in order to get more sales of Firefly, NIO would have to build more of these smaller swap stations. The more smaller swap stations they have, the more sales of Firefly that they can get. All of this means extremely high cash spending. Now, the silver lining with Firefly is the fact that Firefly cars will be sold in NIO stores. alongside NIO cars. So this is very interesting. We're seeing that Onvo has its own stores, which require capital investment, but shares swap stations with NIO. Firefly, on the other hand, has its own swap stations, which require much more spending, capex, but shares stores with NIO. So in that aspect, there's capex, but they're also saving some money. You see, the biggest risk to all these sub-brands is, of course, the branding power, the brand name. And I think we can all agree that NIO has a very strong brand name, very strong branding power. And to give that up and say we're going with a brand new brand, that's very, very risky. Quite famously, recently there was a new interview with NIO CEO, and he was asked when NIO will earn money. Will they need further investment for money to fund their activities? And NIO CEO gave the excellent answer that they're still in the growth phase, and with any growth company, it is expected that they will need support from investors, further investing, further financing to help support its growth. With that being said, this pretty much means that there will always be dilution going forward in order to fund expansion, in order to fund investment, in order to grow infrastructure, and to put these sub-brands onto the ground and get them selling as many as they can. And until they've grown to a big enough scale, with everything said and done, then they can start earning money. Tesla has done numerous stock offerings over the years, countless. And so has Amazon with their quarterly losses. Amazon has never turned a profit until decades later. Okay, so the same situation for NIO is happening. They're spending massive amounts of money on both Onvo and Firefly. And these should be seen as investments, even though on the earnings report they print out as losses. Okay, but eventually they will all pay off. NIO is getting the scale up there. But one interesting thing is, of course, do we even need a sub-brand? That's the question I want to leave you guys with. The risks going forward is that Onvo may not sell well because of the name, and Firefly may not sell well because of having its own swap stations and an insufficient amount of swap stations. Those are the two risks going forward. Hopefully, NIO overcomes these, and the market, the consumers, they buy both cars. Both of these are going to be fantastic products nonetheless, but hopefully people pull the trigger and buy them. All right, as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.